So if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering which Battlefield games are still worth your time and money in 2025. Which ones still have a solid player base and which ones might be fading away. So let's get right in with the most recent title, Battlefield 2042. After a rocky launch in 2021, the game has seen numerous updates and improvements to fix bugs and add missing core features, and while the player base has fluctuated, it's still active. But whether it's worth playing in 2025 depends on what you're looking for. If you're into futuristic warfare with dynamic weather events such as sandstorms and tornadoes and large-scale battles with up to 128 players, and you don't mind specialists with unique gadgets and abilities instead of the traditional classes, it could be worth your time. The multiplayer features 17 maps across different modes, 14 specialists, more than 40 weapons, and a variety of air and ground vehicles, and the game also has an experience called Portal that allows you to build your own games or play the ones others have created. Additionally, 2042 features an extraction mode called Hazard Zone, but this was already abandoned shortly after release and is only played by a handful of people. Multiplayer and Portal, however, are still alive, at least in Europe and North America. But a single-player campaign, like we had on almost all former Battlefield titles, is not available in 2042. Content-wise, you should also not expect anything for the game anymore, because the live service has already ended and there are no new seasons, maps, weapons or battle passes coming in the future. In my opinion, it also still doesn't offer the same amount of content, depth and polish that earlier titles had, but it's definitely a lot more enjoyable and a lot better than it was at launch, and if you can get it on a discount, it is definitely worth a try. Moving on, we have Battlefield 4, one of the best entries in the series and still a fan favorite to this day. It also had a rough start more than 10 years ago, but thanks to the dedication of both the developers and the community, the game got back on track and is still going strong today. Its modern setting, large-scale battles, balanced gunplay and robust vehicle combat offer one of the best multiplayer experiences in the franchise, and the so-called Levolution, where parts of the map change dynamically based on player interaction, adds a unique layer to the gameplay. Battlefield 4 also features a great single-player experience that alone is worth playing, and its multiplayer is still very much alive. You can always find plenty of servers running on PC and both consoles. However, the player count on console is lower, so matchmaking can take some more time. The graphics might be a bit outdated as well by now, especially on consoles where the game seems to be a lot more blurry, and the movement might feel a bit clunky compared to today's standards. Still, Battlefield 4 holds up remarkably well for a game released in 2013, and if you love large-scale modern combat, a heavy emphasis on vehicles, a huge number of weapons and modifications, and a traditional class system, this game is definitely what you're looking for. I wouldn't recommend buying it at the normal price, of course, but I guess that's a no-brainer. But if it's on sale, you can usually get it for around $5, which is absolutely worth it. Just be aware that the game's multiplayer is not available on the old consoles, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 anymore. Then we've got the second most played Battlefield at the moment, still going strong even 8 years after its release, and that's Battlefield 1. The World War I setting has always stood out from the other games in the franchise, and its atmosphere is still breathtaking. The combination of large-scale battles, well-designed maps, iconic weapons, dynamic weather effects, gritty tone and unique period just doesn't get old and still makes it worth playing. Especially the epic scale of the mode operations, where you battle across several maps, the impressive destruction and the introduction of behemoth vehicles like airships and armored trains create unforgettable Battlefield moments. And no matter if you're on PC or consoles, there are always full servers waiting for you, and the PC version even got anti-cheat in 2024, which eliminated a good amount of the annoying cheaters. Besides the multiplayer with infantry combat and massive vehicle warfare, the game also offers a gripping story in single player that is told in different war stories, shining a light on several characters and their experiences. On the downside, some players feel that the game's weapons lack variety compared to other entries in the series, and the slower, more deliberate pace may not appeal to everyone. But despite these minor points of criticism, Battlefield 1 remains one of the best titles in the franchise as well, and no matter if you haven't jumped back into the game in a while or never played it before, it's definitely still worth checking out. Now, let's talk about the most played Battlefield game at the moment that also had a bit of a rocky start when it launched, just like almost every Battlefield game, but has come a long way since then: Battlefield 5. Set in World War II, it visits theaters of war that are not often seen in video games and offers a lot of variety in terms of maps and weapons. Its graphics still look amazing even 7 years after release, and it still feels like one of the most polished Battlefield experiences to date. Just like Battlefield 1, it offers different war stories in single player, always focusing on the experience of a single person, and a classic multiplayer with a variety of maps, modes, weapons and vehicles. It offers fast-paced combined arms combat with focus on squad-based features such as the reinforcement system to encourage teamwork more than ever. The gunplay is probably the best in the series, even though the scaled-down weapon customization might not be everyone's favorite, but the movement system is incredibly good as well and doesn't only look good, but also offers several mechanics like rolling from a high fall or shooting while lying on the back. However, Battlefield 5 is also not without its drawbacks. Mechanics like attrition, which heavily limits ammo resupply and health restoration, were not so well received by the player base. Its tone is not as gritty as that of Battlefield 1, and it still misses most of the typical maps you would expect to see in a World War II game. Nevertheless, it also features the franchise's typical large-scale destruction and interaction with the map, and it still has a solid player base across all platforms, especially in the more popular game modes like Conquest and Breakthrough. So if you want a modern experience, go for Battlefield 4 or maybe 2042 when you don't mind the differences to former titles of the franchise. If you want your warfare dirty, gritty and atmospheric, Battlefield 1 is your best bet, and if your focus is more on movement and gunplay, Battlefield 5 is the best Battlefield you can play right now. But there is one more game left that is a bit of a wild card: Battlefield Hardline. This game always had a much smaller player base even at launch, and that hasn't really changed to this day. It's got a cops versus robbers theme instead of the classic war theme, which is unique for the franchise, but it never really gained the same traction as the other titles. However, if you're curious or a fan of the concept, it might still be worth checking out. It also comes with a pretty good single player campaign, but the multiplayer might not be everyone's favorite. If you can get it on sale, however, or try it out as part of a Game Pass subscription, give it a go. Just keep in mind that the player count is pretty low, so finding matches can be hit or miss, and you're more likely to find servers on PC than on console, but it's not as active as the other games in general. And I want to close this video with Battlefield 3, probably the best entry in the series overall. But its player count has dropped significantly over the last few years, especially on consoles, so unless you're looking for a good single player campaign to play, I would not recommend getting this one. On PC you can still find a few servers, but it's already getting harder and harder, and on consoles they were already shut down completely at the end of 2024. So unfortunately the days of Battlefield 3 being the go-to Battlefield game are sadly over. And there you have it. If you're looking to jump back into the Battlefield franchise, your best bets are Battlefield 1, 5 and 4, 2042 as well if you like the setting, and Hardline might be worth a look if you're in the mood for something different. If you enjoyed this video right here, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm Catwoman and you are awesome.